Let's do it, baby. It's late at night. We're just getting off of the Wrestlemania Saturday press conference, but it is time for an emergency podcast. Now, I do not have the siren because I spent Wrestlemania in the stadium in Philadelphia, where I still am right now, the city of brotherly love. And it was a phenomenal experience. But yes, it's late at night. My voice is not as strong as it usually is, and that's because it's been a hell of a weekend already. From Thursday doing the bump at WWE World. Friday, I was back at WWE World doing an appearance on the Pat McAfee show. Then late at night, watching WrestleMania SmackDown, as well as the Hall of Fame, seeing Paul Heyman give a GOAT Hall of Fame speech, not just because he is a GOAT, but because the speech itself was a GOAT speech. Then waking up first thing, not even in the morning. I mean, it was before the sun even came up, to get a suit on and get over to the Wells Fargo Center so I could be a part of the countdown to NXT Stand and Deliver, which Stand and Deliver was a phenomenal NXT show. And then, of course, head over to the stadium for night one of WrestleMania. Now, the energy of being in that stadium, the energy from the very beginning, of seeing that WrestleMania intro and feeling the crowd react to all of it, and then Triple H comes out and informs us that we're at the beginning of a new era, that things are changing, and this is something Triple H has said in interviews, that is as much as wrestling is shocking people right now with how big it's getting, and it's growing every single day, we ain't seen nothing yet. That's the message that Triple H delivers. I think that Triple H and the WWE, and I got this from the quick message that he gave to us at the beginning of the show, are looking at this year's WrestleMania not as a culmination of everything they've been doing over the last year or two, but as a beginning, as the benchmark of this is where we launch in to the next stratosphere. And that's kind of, the message that I got from him at the press conference too. That for him, it's about bigger, better, moving forward. So we move forward towards night two. We know what the stipulation is. WrestleMania Sunday, Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns, bloodline rules. Now, of course, the standard thought of professional wrestling logic, the idea would be, well, now that Cody's back against the wall, clearly he's going to win the WWE Universal Championship from Roman Reigns. I don't necessarily see it that way, but what I find almost joyful about the way we consume WWE right now is with just about every story, and just about every match has a story, you're getting payoffs that you like. You're getting payoffs that make sense. You're getting payoffs that, whether you predicted it or not, are cool, or make you not feel like an idiot for watching the product. So there's a big part of me that is watching a lot of these matches, including the main event of night two of WrestleMania, going, yeah, I think it'll be Roman Reigns, but if it's not, or if it's some other weird thing that none of us have thought of, I'm ready to go on the ride. Because so far, in recent memory, last year or so, I haven't been disappointed yet. And I wasn't disappointed by the main event of this show, Roman Reigns and The Rock versus Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. Cody Rhodes showing up in the co-branded Cody Rhodes jacket with the Seth Rollins logo kind of accents throughout. You had Seth Rollins dressed to the nines, in full WrestleMania regalia. Who would have thought 2 years ago, when Seth Rollins had a mystery opponent at WrestleMania, and it turned out to be the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes, returning to the WWE, but really showing up in the WWE for the first time as this version of Cody, the version that he had been able to build because he left WWE. That 2 years later, in 2024, not only would Cody be in the main event of WrestleMania for the second time in a row, but it'd be Cody and Seth Rollins as a tag team, and The Rock would be back to team with Roman Reigns. You wouldn't have seen it coming not a mile away. I've been working on this theory, and I wish I had said it on the podcast, that the reason that Roman Reigns walks around in these hoodies, because every time you see him on TV, he's wearing a hoodie, a baggy hoodie. I said, I'll bet this guy is working out like a fiend, and I'll bet he's got a jacked up body under that hoodie. And guess what? We got a big muscle Roman Reigns, a lean, muscular, big guy Roman Reigns coming to the ring for WrestleMania 39 on night 1. I'm sorry, 40. WrestleMania 40 on night 1. And then, of course, The Rock coming out with the flaming Brahma Bull, with the People's Championship that was awarded to him by the family of Muhammad Ali at the Hall of Fame the night before. And he shows up in those pants that appear to be inspired by the pants that he wore in the era in which he faced Mankind at the Royal Rumble, and then they get a halftime heat. The athleisure vest that's inspired by the $500 vests inspired by the $500 shirts that he's been wearing on SmackDown and Raw. And I thought, really what I liked the most about this tag team match is how much The Rock showed up. I think there were some that felt as though there was a good possibility that Roman was going to carry the weight in this tag team match. That The Rock was there to maybe play the greatest hits, maybe give us a little something extra, but ultimately save his oxygen, be protected, and just let the people see The Rock do something physical. Because honestly, you buy a ticket to WrestleMania and you see The Rock do a little something physical, you're going to feel like you got your money's worth. They went the extra mile, and they gave us what we came to see. And I think that's what, that to me is what this era is all about. People go, oh, the Attitude Era is coming back. Because The Rock is cursing on TV, or because Paul Heyman is, well, I can't repeat what Paul Heyman said at the Hall of Fame, but to me, the Attitude Era, what made it good, what made it special, what made it such the kind of the benchmark that every era gets compared to is not the edge of it, right? It's not the raunchiness of it. It's the fact that the stories were compelling. It's the fact that the stories were interesting. It's the fact that they were doing things for the first time on TV that made you feel like, I got to tune in next week to see where this story goes. That, to me, is the most common similarity between the Attitude Era and this era that we're in now. The difference is that the Attitude Era did not have great stories. Did not have great matches. They had great stories, did not have great matches. I was talking, I did Pat McAfee's show this week. I was talking to AJ Hawk before I went on. And he was like, you know what I loved? I said, what? He said, when the Big Boss Man showed up at Big Show's funeral for his dad, and then he chained up the casket on the back of his police car, and the Big Show jumped on top of his dad's casket. I loved that. I remember it. It was great. What a hilarious, ridiculous thing. You remember the Big Show, Big Boss Man match? Anybody remember that Armageddon pay-per-view? I don't think so. Why? Because it was all about the story. It was nothing about the match. Here, we're living in an era where there's expected to be payoff, where these stories that we're involved in are expected to pay off in a worthwhile match. It doesn't have to be, 5 stars in the Tokyo Dome, but just a worthwhile, good match. That's where the stories lead. And that's what we got this week. That's what we got at WrestleMania. That's what we got with The Rock and Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. The big swerve came when The Rock told the referee not to disqualify him because he'll fire him. The Rock going back to his corporate influence, which is not dissimilar from what Mr. McMahon was known to do. There's a precedent set in this world of wrestling that the boss can and will do things like this. But all that said, I thought it was good because they can't just make it a no-holds-barred match, Because if they just make it a no-holds-barred match, then it doesn't seem like it's that hard to create a match with Bloodline rules. And if it's not that hard to create a match with Bloodline rules, then why, oh why, would you need to have a tag team match where that was the stipulation? Where if we win, we can have that stipulation. If it's that easy to do it, just do it. So I thought that was a very clever way of getting around it and still allowing the protective nature that a match where the disqualification rules are waived affords. You can do a lot more. You can spend a lot more time inside and outside the ring, and there's a lot of stuff you can do that isn't dependent on you maintaining a 20, 30, 40 minute straight up wrestling match happening. The Rock, of course, looked like $1 million showing up with that People's Championship that had been given to him by the Muhammad Ali family at the Hall of Fame. And not only was it cool to see The Rock go all the way and to see The Rock really has put the work in and to see The Rock really has not only an amazing physique, but he's still got that power and he's got great, much better cardio than I think people realize that he had. But he's also, he's taking bumps. He took a rock bottom through a table off another table. And by the way, that was very, very noteworthy because when he went through the table, they broke the American announcers table. They broke the English announcers table. The Spanish announce table, it didn't budge at all. It maintained throughout the show. So shout out to the Spanish announce team. The old US of A had to take the hit this time. It was cool to see that even in Philly, for the most part, bad guy gets booed, good guy gets cheered. There were some people, of course, there's always going to be people who like Roman Reigns, who like The Rock. It's very, very difficult to get people to boo The Rock, but ultimately, when Cody was going for those comebacks, when Cody was in those positions where he needed to get the crowd on his side, the crowd was completely on his side. You had that super dramatic moment where The Rock gets speared by mistake by Roman Reigns. But eventually, it was the people's, after a lot of chicanery, it was the people's elbow that allowed Cody Rhodes to be pinned and The Rock and Roman Reigns to leave, both adorned with their titles. They did a really fun kind of visual flashback to last year's WrestleMania where Cody is looking despondent as he sits up in the ring after being defeated, and Roman Reigns and The Rock are both in the aisleway behind him with their titles in the air, declaring victory, the one thing that Cody didn't want to happen. And now we go to WrestleMania Sunday, and it's Bloodline rules. Now, of course, people are assuming that means, well, Cody's going to win because his back is up against the wall now. Of course, this is how it goes. You can't have him lose again. That's the traditional rules of wrestling. I don't know that we're living in a traditional time anymore. Look, the fact is, if you go through the whole card tonight, I think I got every match right. What I said was every babyface is going to win except Roman Reigns. And I counted Rhea Ripley as a babyface. I said, WrestleMania is when, she's a babyface. And again, going back to the crowd cheering for good guys and booing bad guys, they cheered for Rhea Ripley because she's a legit, she just is. Like, it's not one of those things where you have to change the character. It's not one of those things where it's like, oh, I don't think they're going to do this because she's better as that. You don't have a choice anymore. People are just cheering. I think the same thing is going to happen to Gunther real soon, where it's like, well, we don't have a choice. People are going to cheer him no matter what. I guess he's a babyface. I thought that, so look, I'm sticking by my original prediction for tomorrow night. I'm sticking by my original prediction that Roman Reigns wins. Now, do I need Roman to win? No. Do I think that the WWE is in a spot right now where they've proven to us that we can have that faith in them. They've proven to us that we can trust kind of where they're going until they start making more mistakes. And it's like, oh, they're back at it. I don't think it's fair to not give them the benefit of the doubt. I think that they've finally earned that. But I'm really looking forward to it. How about that? The fact that we get 2 Roman Reigns matches in a row in an era where even Michael Cole on commentary, Michael Cole was taking shots on commentary, talking about how long it's been since The Rock, talking about, when he saw how in shape Roman Reigns was. Well, it's not that tough to be in shape if you, can take off 2 months between your matches and stuff like that. He's becoming a pretty strong voice of a large section of the fandom. And I think that that's really good. I think that if you're a fan of professional wrestling, of WWE, of whatever, and there's this opinion that permeates online, and it's not reflected on the television show, it's almost like that can't be a disconnect. The television show needs to reflect what the fans are feeling. Like when Cole said, during the tag match, when Cole was like talking about how, like, oh, what are you, one of these guys that was reading into Carlito's reaction to Rey Mysterio on SmackDown? And it's like, yeah, we were talking about that. And the fact that it's reflected on commentary goes back to the everything counts, rule number 3 of the Notsam Wrestling podcast. And I think that you could say the same thing for what he was saying about Roman Reigns and only wrestling once in the last 3 months. That's something that people talk about. That's something that people take issue with. So why not have somebody, not everybody, but somebody on the show bringing that forward? Because in this day and age, if you're going to take a stance in the broadcast booth, you should be able to be challenged. Whether it's a quote-unquote work or whatever, you should be able to be challenged on that and back it up. And so I like that that's happening. After the show, both Roman Reigns and The Rock separately did the press conference. And I thought in both instances, for me, the real takeaway with Roman, first of all, I loved that he was making them throw people out for booing him. And he wasn't doing it in a wrestling way. He was like, no, I'm leaving. Just throw him out. No, I don't want him here. It just serious. I love that. But when he just like broke it down, like, look, and this is true. Somebody asked me, what's your favorite storyline ever? And I'm like, you're not going to like my answer. You're going to think I'm a shill if I tell you what my answer is. You're going to think I'm a troll. You're going to think I'm just saying it. I don't know if you want to ask me that question. He's like, no, tell me. I was like, I mean, it's the bloodline. How is it not the bloodline? You're talking about going from an era where people were like, oh, I remember long-term storytelling. I wish there was long-term storytelling. To telling a story over the course of 4 years. And one guy goes, well, what about, it's, yeah, sure, it's been good, but it's been bad too. There's ebbs and flows. It's like you want it to have no ebbs and flows over the course of 4 years? You think that that's possible? You think that that's how stories are told? The fact is that the bloodline has been a centerpiece of the WWE for all these years. And if you look at from the beginning of the bloodline up until now, it's only been growth. And now it's mega growth. I don't think The Rock is back in the WWE without the bloodline story. I don't think that's happening. And if that's not happening, does this happen? Does that happen? Does this happen? Does that happen? I mean, there's a huge argument to be made here. So Roman at the press conference pointed out that, like, the stuff that he's doing is stuff that even back in the day, nobody was doing. Like, the 4-year run, like, it's not like that was, I mean, it was more typical back in the day, but he's doing it in an era where everybody's on their phones every 5 seconds, and he's still doing it. And he just goes, goat, I'm telling you. And he believes it. I believe him too. And then The Rock showed up, and he's in the press conference. And he goes, and this is a good clue, he gets asked the question, are there going to be surprises in tomorrow's Bloodline Rules match with Cody Rhodes? He goes, yeah. Yep. Next question. I can't tell you what they are, but yeah. There'll be surprises. I mean, I'm trying not even to guess because it's like we're not going to be dissatisfied. But, I don't know. It could be. See, here's the thing. Could it be Stone Cold and John Cena? Sure. But the whole theme of all of this, there's 6 premium live events scheduled. We've got, 2 in May. We've got Clash at the Castle in June. We got Money in the Bank in July. SummerSlam in August. Bash in Berlin in August. All these shows. You don't think that they're planning in advance? You don't think that they're planning with the thought of, okay, and where do we go next? I guarantee you that's a conversation that happens all the time. We do this, which leads to that. Wouldn't it be cool if we did that? Yes, but what does it lead to? It leads to this. Okay, let's do it. It doesn't really lead to anything. Okay, let's not do it. The Rock ain't going anywhere. I'm not saying The Rock is going to be around every single week, going forward, but we're going to get more Rock matches. I have a pretty good feeling of that. If Stone Cold and John Cena come back, is that going to further things? Are we going to get a payoff there? If Stone Cold and John Cena cost Roman Reigns the championship, shouldn't Roman Reigns need to get revenge against Stone Cold and John Cena? Are we going to see Roman Reigns stack up Stone Cold and John Cena on his way to get revenge to Cody Rhodes? I don't think so. And besides, Roman Reigns has said 2 things. When he doesn't have Paul Heyman anymore, he quits. When he doesn't have the title anymore, he quits. I don't want to see him quit. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's going to be really, really good. Otherwise on the show, interesting, a lot of changes. If you looked in some of the entrances, intros, I should say, I noticed it first in the first match. The way they shot the intro for Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch. The introduction when Samantha Irvin was introducing them, and they used that 8K cam on a whatever, a jib or whatever, not a jib, a gimbal, and kind of swooping shots and everything. I thought that looked really, really cool. I thought the production elements moved really, really fast. But then there was all this that hydration station. Can we at least give credit to the WWE for putting the WrestleMania logo on the Prime bottle? So technically, yes, the Prime bottle is slapped in the middle of the WWE ring now, but because there's a WrestleMania logo, we still get a WrestleMania logo in the WWE ring too. So it's not totally unrelated. Lots of sponsorships in the matches, which I really don't have a problem with, and if it helps the WWE get bigger, that we're all going to benefit from that. And then I like the table that they put the title on. In title matches, there's that table at ringside that you put it on. It's a little distracting when there's no title on it, and it's almost like maybe you just slap some wheels on that sucker and drag it out when it's time. But I thought it was cool. I like that. I think the fact that little things are changing leads me to believe that details are being paid attention to, which I think is really, really strong. Let's look at the matches. You had and the new open and close, the Then Now Forever, is totally different. I think it's way better now, with the kind of almost looking like you're going through a black hole in space, but it's all wrestling stuff. And then at the very end, the stinger that they end the shows with. I just think all that stuff is really, really interesting. And of course, by the way, Julia showing up in NXT, that was big. But we're not talking about NXT right now. This is the reaction to WrestleMania Night 1. We're just getting at some of our feelings. You had, Rhea Ripley beat Becky Lynch. I thought it was a great open. By the way, the Philly crowd, I don't think there's anything wrong with the Philly crowd. This is the second time that there's been a big stadium show that people complain about the crowds. And I guess the argument would be that the crowd in Australia seemed better. But, I was in Tampa, and I really didn't have a problem with the Royal Rumble crowd, and I felt the same way. Every time I went out on the floor for WrestleMania, I thought Philly was great. I think that there were definitely points in the show where the crowd got tired. But look, if you put on a weekend where you've got think about people who were going to a bunch of stuff, and it's an encouraged thing. You got SmackDown and Hall of Fame that went until 1 in the morning. Then you got your next show that starts at 11 a.m. the next day with NXT. And then you do that whole show just to go to another show. And by the way, in the meantime, you're at WWE World, which is a exhausting experience because it's such sensory overload because there's so much stuff. I think that part of having a weekend that's this full means you're going to have points where your audience gets tired. And maybe they're still enjoying what they're seeing, but it's just how much energy does a human being have? I think that, yeah, and it was cold too, by the way. It was real cold on the floor. But you know, and part of it is the way sound travels in a stadium. But yeah, I didn't really have a problem with the crowd being there, especially in the beginning, right? So Rhea Ripley beats Becky Lynch. I thought it was the right call. I liked the way it happened. I liked that it was a straight-up clean victory. It almost feels like Becky might have to go away for a little bit. I don't know what the plan would be unless there's some storyline that's cooking up. And then I don't know where Rhea goes next. Does Rhea move right to Liv Morgan? Because that's set up for her. There's a couple of matches that she could have next. I mean, we have to get some semblance of what's going on with the Judgment Day, right? Because the Judgment Day all took L's except for Rhea Ripley. And I have a feeling that Rhea Ripley and the Judgment Day, I don't think that connection is going to be going on together that long. Then the next match was, of course, the 6-team ladder match, six-pack challenge. I had no idea. I knew that obviously all 4 titles would be hung above the ring, but I kind of felt like people would just grab the belts, and if they split the titles in a ladder match, that it would almost be accidental. Like 2 people would just go at the same time, and they would each have 1 set of titles. I don't think it was ever announced, at least I never saw it, that, and maybe it was, I just didn't see it, that they were doing 2 separate kind of finishes, that the 2 titles would be defended separately within this ladder match, but that's exactly how they did it. And I felt like A-Town Down getting the SmackDown Tag Team Championship. Interesting for SmackDown. I think great for those guys. I think it's a good call. But I thought it was really interesting because it made it so that because you assumed it was going to be DIY and Awesome Truth that both won. And if 2 teams won, I would have thought that those would be the 2 teams. So when A-Town Down won, it was almost like, oh, is Awesome Truth not winning? And you wanted them to win. So it that organic build of hoping that it happened and hoping that it happened and hoping that it happened, and boom, Truth and Miz finally get their victory. And after all these years of being entertained by R-Truth, and by the way, he was great at the live Notsam Wrestling podcast. If any of you guys were out there, I hope you were. It was awesome. You do not want to miss the next one. Toronto. To see him get that moment, I think was really something special for the audience. What did you have next? You had Ray and Andre beating Dominic and Santos Escobar after Lane Johnson and Jason Kelsey got involved wearing their Rey Mysterio mask, which was just a fun thing. It was a fun match. It was a fun thing for those guys to get involved, and the crowd was definitely into it. You had your 6-woman tag match, Jade, Bianca, and Naomi, defeating Damage Control, and I think the Jade, Bianca, and Naomi group, I hope they don't break it up anytime soon. I hope they keep those 3 together because they're really great together. Really, really great. Just completely iconic. All 3 of them are raising the stock of each other. And, you know, I think it's just a good thing for people to see the 3 of them just acting as a unit and dominating. And it's great. It's a great way to bring Jade Cargill in for the first time. You had, of course, Sami Zayn beating Gunther. Now, this was a controversial one because of the Chad Gable of it all. A lot of people weren't sure that Sami Zayn was the one to beat the Gunther streak, but ultimately, once it happened, it felt like a huge moment. It felt really, really cool. Now, I would not be surprised in the slightest if Damian Priest cashes in on Sammy on Monday. Would not be surprised if that happened at all, because I just don't see him cashing in on either of the other two titles. I don't see him, if Drew wins the title from Seth, I think it makes no sense for Damian Priest to cash in on him. I think that it convolutes Drew's story, and you're not sure who's a heel anymore at that point, and Drew's a great heel. And, I mean, it's almost like why go to all this? And I think people want to see Drew, if somebody's going to beat Seth with a run, more than they want to see Damian Priest be the World Heavyweight Champion right now. But if it were the Intercontinental Championship and he ruins Sami Zayn's moment, then Sami has to go conquer Damian Priest, I think that there's something there. So we'll see. I mean, we'll see if that's how it goes down. And then, of course, you had Jey Uso beating Jimmy Uso with Lil Wayne playing Jey Uso to the ring. That was super cool. I mean, it was a good match. I almost feel like Jimmy versus Jey Uso is one of those on-paper matches that it becomes really difficult to live up to expectations. I think that's one of the reasons why sometimes you don't ever really... Like, there was never a Marty Jannetty versus Shawn Michaels match that really lived up to the expectation of what the turn was. But I like the way that it was kind of shown, where Jay didn't want to do it. Jay wasn't particularly happy with his victory because Jay's the one with the morals. Jay's the good guy. So I thought, I mean, just a very fun night one of WrestleMania that gave fans exactly what they want. There was nothing to get too mad at, because whether Cody and Seth win or lose, you don't know exactly where it's going. Tomorrow night, does Drew win the title? I think a lot of people want him to. I think there's every reason for him to. There was certainly, I didn't see any hints of a Seth or Cody turn in the tag match. And I didn't necessarily see any hint other than I guess, you could say the spear that hit Rock by mistake. But honestly, I mean, I can't help but feel like Rock pinned Cody. If Roman beats Cody because of the Bloodline's help, Cody doesn't get another shot at Roman. What if Cody has to beat The Rock to get another shot at Roman? And what if the redemption arc for Cody is beating both Rock and Roman? And the reason, because if he wins the title, why would he fight The Rock? Just to avenge a loss? Like, why would you risk your title against The Rock to avenge a loss from before you were champion? It makes not a ton of sense. And what's The Rock going to go like, oh, well, I'm the boss, so now I say, maybe. Look, like I said, I have faith, but it feels like, I still got Roman winning. I don't know what to tell you. I'm looking forward to seeing it. Thank you for tuning in to my instant reaction. We'll see you after night 2.